So February 21, they still had to start with the full-fledged vaccination campaign in Belgium, where I come from. So he said, we already have the proof that I was doubting this during the debate. I said, you will not be able to stop transmission with a vaccine because we have a mutating virus. So every vaccine will always be leaky, per definition. And I have the proof, he said, I have the proof that transmissions will be stopped from Israeli data. I said, I want to see that proof. Of course, there was no proof. So I stated three things. I said, first of all, it's of no use vaccinating a population under 60 without comorbidities, because the virus doesn't kill these people. The second thing I stated was that QR codes, so back then it was still called by the European Commission the Green Pass, so which eventually became the COVID safe ticket. I said it's of no use implementing this, because this implies that the people who got a vaccine, they still have the potential to get infected, and they can still transmit the virus. So what you're basically doing is give these people a license to infect others in a restaurant, in a bar, wherever. So all the people refusing the vaccine and need a PCR test to get into a bar, a PCR test that only remains valid for 24, 48 hours, those people most probably don't have the virus. Those are the only safe ones. The safe ones are the ones that are not being vaccinated. Yeah.
And so this is where they shut you down.
Well, I stated a third thing, that I found it totally unethical to even think about vaccinating children. And then they shut the debate down.
What happened afterwards?
So it was a Sunday, and apparently the state-appointed experts behind my back organized another press meeting to, where the journalists could talk to the state-appointed expert on the fact that we had that debate in the morning. They didn't talk to me anymore. They just listened to the state experts. So Monday morning, every newspaper, every magazine, every radio station, every TV station was covering my comments, basically stating that I was a potential murderer, that I was a conspiracy theorist. So I had the whole bunch of maleficent words thrown at my head. Was I think on cover of every outlet and in every media for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, that it was discussed, debated. So philosophers and sociologists were invited in studios, and they had to say they shouldn't have allowed Sam Brokken to speak, and he's not an expert because he's not a virologist. He's just a health researcher with a degree in epidemiology. So he's of no... so that's what happened, a smear campaign for about 2 weeks. And then eventually, I felt that my university colleges, they were getting into trouble because, everywhere their name was mentioned and linked to my head. And so for them, it was bad publicity. So what eventually happened, a month later, they just fired me. And that was the end of my academic career. Yeah.
Listen, I mean... I think it's important for people to understand that when you speak, it comes with consequences. A lot of people don't accept that, especially people who are in the promoting of the narrative. They don't see that because they are following the stream. They're going with the current. If you're going against it, you have great risk. When you had that experience of losing your position at the jobs that you were doing, did you have any regrets?
Not at all.
Why?
Because it was my moral and ethical duty. And I still feel the same today. If this would happen again, I would do the same. I still cannot believe that so few people, few health professionals, academics spoke out, that they remained silent, although they should have known better. you're talking about a worldwide system that's being put on humanity. The fear-mongering, the scaremongering, the way they coerced people into getting vaccinated. I saw this happening and I was like, I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I wouldn't have responded to this. And although I realized that what I did wouldn't change a lot, or at least not on an international level, because I'm coming from a small country like Belgium, you don't make a big impact internationally. That's different with the US. If somebody shouts there, everybody has heard it. That's also why my focus protection letter didn't reach further than a few countries in Europe. But it was quite obvious that somebody had to step up and had to start shouting. And even if it was in the desert. Look, I have children, and I was thinking, is this, if this continues, and we see this continuing, by the way, up until today. So there was a huge turnaround in the beginning of the pandemic in March, April 2020. So then I felt this is politics at play. And now they're going to use that momentum to go even further. And that's what we see today with CBDC, digital ideas. There is some kind of a totalitarian, I'm not saying it's a conscious agenda they want to push through, but at least everything is more or less pushed in that direction. And I was thinking of my children. I was like, this is not the world I want my children to live in. A world that is being governed by a few bodies that are unelected, non-democratic, that are taking control over the global population. I think we've never seen this happening before. It's like we're in a war, but it's not with weapons. It's being fought from an intellectual perspective, through digitalization, through AI, algorithms. You get canceled on social media if you try to be a dissent voice in the story. You get silenced, you lose your job if you speak out loudly. These are things we've seen before in history, and this is not a good sign for the future. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to speak out, even if I knew I took a risk. I have to be honest, I didn't think they would fire me, because internally I had some support. I have to be honest, I had some support. I think the reason they fired me finally was because of pressure from the government. And there is a journalist who claims to have found that I was basically kicked out of my chair because national politics got involved and basically stated to my university colleges, get rid of him. I cannot prove that. And there is a journalist in Belgium who has described this and put it on paper. And so then I knew I didn't do anything wrong, that I did the right thing. Otherwise, politics wouldn't have gotten involved to kick me out of my chair. So.
These are important points, Sam, and this is why I like to capture them. Because I think that in the context of where we are now, the world needs voices, needs people who are